for the benefit of others who are not here. I gave an overview of who the players are in the space, from the LLM providers themselves, like Anthropic, OpenAI, xAI, DeepSeek, to harnesses such as Claude Code, Codex, something like OpenClaw, and then to various applications that you can use, like the ChatGPT website, or Open Web UI, which is a self-hosted alternative to something like that. So what I figured we'd do this time is I and Aiden, who is Start9's CTO and who knows more about all of this than me, so if you have any real questions, okay, I figured we'd just show you kind of what we do, how we do some of our stuff, which may or may not be right for any of you at this moment, but not because it's just too advanced, it's just because we have a different use case, right? Most of what we do, most of the way that we're leveraging these tools is to write code, right? We are building massive amounts of software using AI tools. Well, there's a service involved as well, but what you're looking at is my laptop. This is just a mirrored screen right now. And so I'll explain kind of what my personal setup is like. I'll start very personal. I'm gonna show you what I do on a daily basis, literally for, at this point, realistically 14 to 16 hours a day. This is what my life looks like. And a little more I'll show you. But I will then also show you alternative ways that I often engage with these tools, and Aiden can share some of his as well, even though his is largely similar to this. And then we'll show you some of the more cool sort of automated things that we're working on, right? So the way I think about this is that there's kind of, there's 3 to 4 levels of AI integration into your life. Level 1 is a direct experience in the browser. This is sort of where everyone begins. You go to chatgpt.com or whatever, and you start talking to the thing in the browser, right? It's sort of level 1. Great place to start. That's where I started. And I found myself copying things all the time from my computer. I'd copy paste a block of code and paste it into the web app. Be like, take a look at this code, what's it doing? Or then I'd go over and I'd be like, write me a script that does this. And then I'd copy that and paste it over into my, so I'm like copy pasting things back and forth from my computer into the web app. And it could have been anything from code to even legal matters, right? One of the first things I ever used AI to do was write up personal inheritance documents. Last will and testament, a revocable trust for my family. Like, I was like, yay, I get to do like very normal, important, personal legal matters for free, right, for $10 a month. And again, just a ton of copy pasting. I'm gonna upload this and read it, and I realize it's very inefficient, right? What you need to do is get something onto the computer. You need to bring the harness, the way that you're interacting with the AI needs to be local onto your device, so that you don't need to copy paste something into the web browser. You can just say, hey, take a look at this file that's already sitting on my system, right? You don't need to move it anywhere. It comes to you. This also introduces some privacy and security concerns, right? You need to make sure that if you're bringing the thing onto your system, if you're inviting it in, that you're controlling its access while it's there. You don't want it to just run loose around the house necessarily with no rules. So I had to go learn how to set up my local system so that Claude Code, which is my preferred harness that I use most of the time, is not just running rampant on my computer, taking all my personal information and shipping it off to Anthropic servers. So that's sort of level 2, okay, is you're interacting with the AI on your machine. Level 3 is that you create a quarantined environment for the AI. You put it on its own machine and give it root access. It's just like, hey, this is your machine, right? One AI, one computer. And then you can sort of remote into that computer to interact with it. Now you don't have to worry as much about the privacy and security concerns because it can do whatever it wants on that computer. It's like you gave it a body, right? You basically gave the AI its own computer as opposed to sharing yours. And then you just need ways to interact with it on that computer, and one way to do that is chat apps, which I'll show you today. We have a nice setup at Start9 where we have our local AI, we call it Helix, and it has its own computer. It has the best computer in the company, which I just find funny. We didn't have to hire a developer, so we saved a lot of money there, but we got it a really sweet computer, really fast, tons of power, and it's the AI's computer. It owns everything on it. It does whatever it wants on that computer. And Aiden and I interact with Helix via a self-hosted chat application, Matrix. Right? And it could be WhatsApp, it could be Telegram. I recommend using something that is privacy preserving and self-hosted, of course, because it's what we're all about. But it could be any messaging app whatsoever. And then the last phase, and I say last because I think it's really important for a lot of people here and a lot of people out in the world, go straight to phase 4, which is I want an agent that is sort of running 24/7, automatically doing things in my life. I want it to be reading my emails and telling me, when I have one that's important, and then automatically drafting responses and having me approve them, and then managing my calendar and basically automating your life, okay? This is like the end game. This is advanced stuff. You can fire it up right away with no problem. Like you can download OpenClaw, set it loose on a computer, and connect all your things. Give it access to your Google, give it access to your web apps, give it access to your messaging apps, your storage, just give it access, plug it into an intelligent LLM and be like, automate my life. And it'll be like, yes, sir. It'll start automating things. This is like playing with knives as a 2-year-old, okay? Like you're gonna hurt yourself. It's not gonna end well, but it's what everyone wants. Don't get me wrong, that is the end game of this, is to automate your life, automate your family, automate your business. Why? Because then you can do whatever you want, right? Let the AIs, let the robots do all the work. Then you have all the free time you want, and you can build 10 times more than you ever thought you'd be able to. It's really empowering, and that's why everyone's so intoxicated by it. But you really need to work your way through the hierarchy, figure out what you're doing before you get there, right? Because the people who do it properly and get there are gonna automate well, and the people who don't are gonna automate poorly, and that's gonna determine the winners and losers in the next era, okay? So phase 1 should not last very long. This whole using ChatGPT in the browser, do it, it's fine. Learn the pain of it, learn how inefficient it is, but don't stick there too long. Phase 2 is what you need to get to as soon as possible, which is what I can show you right now. And to be honest, where I spend most of my day, okay? I'm aggressively trying to abandon 2 entirely, like Aiden does, which is to have a dedicated box for the AI that I'm simply connecting to. Right now, I'm actually allowing the AI, the Claude Code harness, on my laptop, and I'm just controlling its movements, right? I have it relatively kind of gated, supervised, but it's not a winning strategy, right? But again, I'm trying to get where I'm going in the right way. So I do it in my own time, and I have a lot of things I'm working on, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself to get there. I'd rather get there right than fast, so. Yeah. No. Okay, so the way that, so if you look here, normally I have multiple monitors, okay? But here I have one, so if I swipe left and right like this is like a different monitor. They all look the same, okay? So these are different coding sessions, right? So I'm sitting here, and what you see on the screen here, let's get to a blank one, is a blank coding session. This is my terminal, okay? This is a Linux laptop. Doesn't matter what you're using. You could use Windows, you could use Mac, you could use Linux. they're all going to have the concept of a terminal. This is just how you talk to your computer in the advanced way. We'll call it the coder way, okay? That's this screen. Right? This is half my screen here, roughly. It's about a third. Over here is my IDE. This is my coding, text editor. Think of this as the developer's equivalent of Microsoft Docs, okay? It's just where you write stuff. And these are all the files on the left, folders and files, right? Folders are drop-downs, files end in some kind of extension, .md, .txt, etc. In the middle here is the actual content of that file. So Claude.md is selected. This is the contents of Claude.md. And down here is another terminal. This and this are identical. Okay, they are both windows into my machine. So this one is currently at dev start 9. So everything that I type into here right now would be operating within the dev start 9 folder. Over here, I'm in dev start 9 Helix. So this is actually in, this terminal down here is in that folder. What we're seeing on the screen here has nothing to do with this or this, nothing. What you're seeing on the screen relates only to the sidebar. The sidebar decides what's in the screen. This and this are just terminals, independent terminals operating at whatever directory hierarchy shows in the command line there, okay? The way that Claude Code, and I'm gonna talk about Claude Code because this is the harness that I use. It's the one I know best. And from all my experiences and conversations with other people who I would consider to be knowledgeable and advanced, this is their preferred harness. Maybe other ones are great too. I've tried a couple and this works really, really well, especially when plugged into the latest state-of-the-art model from Anthropic, okay? Again, privacy considerations we'll get into, can answer questions around that, but using Claude Code plugged into Opus 4.7 is sort of the state-of-the-art of artificial intelligence development today, in my opinion. There are ways to do things far more privately with minimal loss in capability, okay, if you need that. All right, so the way that my development works is I'm gonna work on something. I need to build something. In fact, right now I have approximately 75 or 80 different pieces of software that I am working on at the same time right now. I know that sounds crazy, but Start 9 does a lot. We have a lot of projects that we are working on. So at any given moment, I'm in one of 75 different code bases, working on 75 different software projects. Sometimes I'm working on 30 of them at once. And when I say I mean I've delegated to Claude to change 30 things in 30 code bases at once. So let me just show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you this real quick here. And then Aiden and I were talking earlier. Did you manage to get set up with Pi and a few backends, or?
So I have it set up with just my local backend right now.
At home?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is synced out to my GS
Okay.
But I'll go ahead and
Okay.
provide this as well.
Yeah. So what we were going to do today is sort of a test, something that interests me, because there's all these benchmarks coming out right now where they're testing these different LLMs against each other to see which one the best one is, and every week it's changing. It's like, oh, OpenAI just came out with a new model and it's scoring higher than Grok, and now Grok's got this new thing and Anthropic's leading the way. There's these, and you can't really believe them because the tests themselves can be biased. Right? They could leak early. There could be bribery going on there. I mean, you're talking about trillions of dollars at stake here, right? So if you don't think there's some insider trading going on, you're wrong. And so I tend to rely on, I'm very fortunate to be one of those few humans that knows how to hand code really well. They're going to be exceedingly rare into the future. And that puts me in an incredible position to be able to judge these things' capabilities, right? It's like being a car mechanic or being a race car driver and seeing two fast cars and being like, no, that one is way better. And everyone else is like, they look the same to me. Right? Or being a wine connoisseur and being like, well, $10 bottle, $100 bottle, tastes the same. But somebody's like, no, that's a grape from blah, 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 right? So I'm not saying I'm a connoisseur, but I'm definitely in a very good position to judge the abilities, right? The capabilities of these systems. And in my experiences, nothing has touched Anthropic's models, right? Like, not even close. I don't care if someone comes out and says ChatGPT, newest whatever, is, coding better than it. I'm like, nah, I don't believe it. Because every time I touch it, every time I use it, I think it's stupid. And every time I use this, I'm blown away at how intelligent it is. So to me, and again, Aiden has some more insight here, but he ultimately uses this as well. Aiden's brother, who's brilliant and has some good insights here, thinks, what is it, GPT 5.5? Yeah, GPT 5.5 using a codex harness, he thinks is better than this, and he's a good developer, so I have to take that very seriously, and I'm going to give it a try. Take it for a test drive, so to speak. And I could just live in my bubble and say everyone's wrong no matter what. Yeah. No, I mean, this is changing fast. This landscape. You are using Codex now. With what backend? Okay. Have you used Opus 4.7 with Claude Code? Have you tried Qwen 3.7 yet?
Yeah, and I have Qwen 3.6 on my local machine.
Yeah.
So that's the one that does the easy stuff.
Yeah.
But I mostly use Codex, even though I use them both, but I mostly use Codex. So just throwing it out there,
I'll give it a try. I'm open-minded.
this is maybe more my main question here is kind of like, what's the way to evaluate these? I'd be curious to know if maybe if we can talk about how to do evals a little bit, especially in the context of performances.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way.
It's very difficult, right? Like, this isn't standardized testing. This is like, there's a million different things you could do with these tools and a million different ways that you can do them, and then there's also preference and taste, and so I'm going to give Codex with 5.5 a try.
Briefly, I just want to say, like, given how they're so non-deterministic, that's probably one of the hardest things that is rapid to change from the deterministic field. I don't want to spoil this. You said we could talk. We could all live this.
No, we're good. I'm with you.
Yeah, so I think for me, I'm just trying to constantly just wonder, like, if I ask the same prompt 50 times, what is the variation of that?
Yeah, I mean, if you turn the temperature down to 0, it's going to be 0 variance. If you don't give it any, right, and you can do that. Like, I could tune this to basically make it give me a deterministic answer every single time, but I'm going to be sucking it dry of creativity. And so you don't want to do that, right? By default, Anthropic sets their models to the highest temperature, 1, pure creativity. They tune it, and they're just like, we almost guarantee you that if you ask this thing the same thing twice, it's going to give you 2 different answers. That's Anthropic's strategy, because they want to give the model as much leeway as possible on the probabilistic selection of the next token. But if you crank that thing down to 0, which you can, it'll give you the same answer every time. So it's tunable, right? So it might be a preference thing. It might be like, okay, I actually want the same thing twice, and I don't care if you're slightly dumber. But I leave it at 1. I let it go. So, all right, anyway. Let me show you. Oh, what we're going to do, this is where I was going with this, is that we have our own benchmark idea, right? I think that me and Aiden and Start9 are actually in a good position, not to like test the overall intelligence or broad capabilities of these models, but we have a benchmark test that I think is pretty standardized, pretty apples to apples that we could run against all these models. And what it is one of the things that we do repeatedly every day is we are packaging open source software for StartOS. So earlier when I said that we have 75 code bases, most of these code bases, like we make multiple operating systems, we make web apps, we make all sorts of stuff, but a lot of our code bases are actually what you'd call a wrapper for another piece of software. So take some random piece of open source software in the world, we'll say Nextcloud, okay? Anyone familiar with Nextcloud? You know, it's a Google Workspace kind of self-hosted alternative, very featureful. It's document sharing and chat and everything, you can password management, really everything that you could run your business or even your country on. A lot of foreign nations use Nextcloud as opposed to using American, spyware. And they'll use Nextcloud self-hosted instead. And so Nextcloud is a service that a lot of people want to run for their families and for their own businesses, so that they don't have to pay these monthly subscriptions to cloud providers while simultaneously giving away all their data. They want to run Nextcloud on their own personal mini PC server for their family and for their business, so that all the data of the business, all the communications of the business flow through the server and never touch a big tech third-party server or cloud, and is not in any way, shape, or form subject to surveillance or data mining and advertising and all the rest. It's your data. It's stored on your server. This is what we do as a company. This is what Start9, our whole mission is to do, is to give people control over their data. Personal data centers. Routers, personal servers, the whole thing. Your house becomes your data center. That's what we do. Now, we will take these pieces of software that people want to run on their data center, like Nextcloud, and it has to be packaged for our operating system, which is called StartOS. Our OS is StartOS. Think Windows, Mac, iOS, Android. These are all different operating systems for different types of computers. We make an operating system for a personal server. It's based on Linux, as any good server OS should be, but it is a far cry from any other Linux distro out there. It is a graphical, easy to use, easy to access server operating system that allows you to self-host software. And part of the reason that makes it so easy to do is because we grab the software off the shelf and we package it for StartOS. Packaging it for StartOS means writing code that teaches StartOS how to start the service, how to stop the service, how to monitor the health of the service. It exposes tools for the user to configure the service, to run command line commands on the service in the form of buttons, to schedule tasks, receive notifications. Basically, you can think of StartOS as like the highly technical Linux sysadmin friend of yours who's sitting next to you typing all the things into the command line that you want it to do. You don't have to do it. Your technical friend does it for you. That's StartOS. StartOS powered by an AI is a whole other level. But all this is to say that the software has to be packaged for StartOS, which is no like tiny endeavor, or at least it didn't used to be, right? It used to be a pretty big deal to package software for StartOS. Like it would take, depending on the complexity of the software, it could take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks of work, full-time work. And we revamped the process of packaging a service for StartOS and then optimized it for AI to access, with the goal of having AI be the thing that packages software for StartOS as opposed to humans, right? It's like imagine we had a t-shirt factory where humans were like doing the hand sewing, and we were like, hey, there's this new technology that allows us to like automate this whole process. And as a business, that's what we invested in. We invested in a new technology that allows us to automate a central part of our business, which is packaging software for our operating system. We've gotten really good at it, okay? This process is now extremely efficient. I can, before I start dinner, open up my phone to a chat app that's connected to our Helix developer that's running on this dedicated computer and say, hey, somebody said so-and-so software is really cool, package it for StartOS. And it'll go, okay, I'm off, and I'll go cook dinner. And I'll come back from cooking dinner, and it's done, all right? I found the software on GitHub. I packaged it for StartOS. I added all these features that I thought would be interesting to the user. I tested it on a virtual machine. Everything seems to run properly and start up correctly. And here's the PR, the pull request for you to review. I click approve, click literally one button, and it automatically hits a continuous deployment pipeline, launches to a marketplace where anyone in the world can now download that software onto their server and run it. Obviously, there's a lot of safety considerations that go into this entire process to make sure that we haven't just packaged malware and shipped it around the world. You know, a lot of just for the same reason that if you're mass producing milk, you want to make sure that it doesn't have, you know, contaminants in it. Same idea, right? It's just mass production of a product. In this case, the product is software for StartOS. That was a long story to get to this conclusion. This is a great test for AI. I can ask 5 different AIs to package the exact same service for StartOS, give it the exact same starting context, everything, and then say, go. And see who does it faster, see who does it better, see who makes more mistakes. I think we should do it, like tonight. Like, this is a great test, you know, because I only use Opus 4.7 to do the packaging right now. I'm curious what 5.5 would do. The what based? It's on a PR. No, in theory. I haven't tested it.
Yeah, I did it on service packaging, and mine was probably not.
No, mine's in great shape. So yeah, I mean, we sort of just cooked up this idea like right before the meetup started. So I don't want to waste people's time by like fiddling with logins and setups. So what I'll show you is how we do it right now, okay? So I'll show you what it's like at the moment. Okay, so this is a room. All right, so this is our Matrix server. This is, you know, Start9 community is fantastic. We have a community section here where we have, I mean, thousands and thousands of people are on this private server that we host, and you need an access code to get in. It's a very safe space. There's no scammers, there's no spammers, there's nobody pretending to be, you know, someone to fish your passwords and all the rest. It's for our community. And yeah, it all goes down on here. And I have a private space on this server that nobody else except for Aiden has access to, which is this, you know, these are our servers. We have a StartBot is this new thing we're coming out with for StartOS, where you're gonna have this on OS agent, think OpenClaw, except with really strict guardrails, and a great context window so that it can do things effectively for you. But Helix is our developer. So I have a private chat with Helix here. And then we have this room called Helix Packages, okay? So this room here is a dedicated room where it has 3 people in it, top right corner there. It's me, Aiden, and Helix. Helix lives on a computer in her office down the street. And anything I say in this room, if I mention Helix, I have to @ Helix, right? I have to mention it explicitly, will automatically get a unique context window. So the server that's running behind this, the Helix server, knows the room that it's in. So if I send Helix a message in the Helix packages room, it knows that it's a package developer for Start9, working on packaging services for StartOS. If I send Helix a message in the Helix core room, in this room, Helix is a software developer working on StartOS, the operating system. Totally different context window. It's like a totally different person. Helix here is not the same as Helix in the packaging room. We call it the same name because it's a developer for Start9, but its context is totally different, so its brain is different. What it knows about the world is different. And then my personal chat with Helix is different yet. It's neither a package developer nor a core developer. It's just a developer, and it's gonna, you know, it's sort of more of a jack of all trades and can help me write scripts and do whatever I need, okay? It's just a chat room. So as you can see, yesterday or 2 days ago, oh, this is the core room. I mean, yesterday, or I guess it was the day before, somebody on X, who I like, was like talking about how they wanted to run Mattermost for their business. You know, Mattermost is like a self-hosted Slack. Okay, so is Matrix, that's what this is. And they wanted Mattermost for their business. And they were talking about how they were like setting it up. You know, they got to get the server, the VPS, and they got to set it up, and they got to set up the turn server, and they got to set up Postgres database. And I was like, I'm going to package this for StartOS so that this guy can just click install. Mattermost spins right up, and you can configure it using buttons on the screen, right? Super simple. So I walked into this room and I just said, Helix, package Mattermost for StartOS. Be sure to test. Okay? 144 replies later. Here's the whole flow. Helix gets to work. Started on this. A brand new task is a brand new package is a meaty task. I'll need to set up the repo from the template, design the Docker image, manifest, daemons. Mattermost needs Postgres as a backend. Write the docs, verify it builds. I even have it write documentation, user-facing documentation, so that when a user comes in and is like, hey, I just installed Mattermost and I've tried to log in and this didn't work, or I logged in and I'm chatting with some people, but this isn't. Helix knows everything about Mattermost. Why? Because I have Helix on a cron, which I'll show you in a few minutes here, every day. Helix goes out into the world and identifies every single piece of software that is available for StartOS, that we officially support, by the way, because there's tons of software available for StartOS that I don't even know about. It's an open ecosystem, right? But the software that we as a company have decided, like, we're going to support that, Helix has that list, pulls it from our marketplace, and goes out and scrapes all their websites. All their websites, all their documentation, all their GitHub repositories, everything. Just learns everything about that software and figures out which pieces of that are really important for an end user to know, right? Like, if I click that button, what happens? If I have this bug, why am I having it? It just becomes an expert in that software, but only in the need to know way. It doesn't learn everything. Like, I have an LLM doing this, right? I have a LLM scraping the web and diluting it down, and then putting it into an index that is later consumed by StartBot, so that our customers in their operating system can get help, much better help than they could ever get from a human, because no human knows everything about Mattermost. I mean, maybe some do, right? But I don't employ them. Yeah. Yeah, but they don't have a room, right? Like, maybe they do have some support channel. You ask them a question, they'll get back to you in 3 days. I don't know. But so we're basically being the customer support center for all the software in the world, all the open source software out there, by training our agent on it and then giving access to our paying customers to that agent. We pay the inference. It's a business model. And so, anyway, I just want to side note, right? So Helix is not only packaging Mattermost for StartOS, it's also learning everything about Mattermost and creating the documentation that will later be consumed by StartBot to provide support to the customers using Mattermost. Okay, so I'm using project files based to do MD tracking, blah, blah, blah. It's just telling me as it goes here, okay? So, you know, a couple minutes go by. Now I need to update package JSON, working, build is clean. Okay, so within 10 minutes, it's building the software. It has completed the code that would have taken a human, I don't know, a couple days to do. 10 minutes. It's now building it and testing it on a virtual machine. Upstream only ships AMD 64 for the team edition, dropping a ARM 64 from the manifest. So Mattermost is only going to be available if you have an x86 machine. Otherwise, it's going to run emulated, which will be super slow. But that's fine. Nothing we can do about that. Okay, there it is. It's done. So it took 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and I have a PR waiting for me on GitHub to review. If I click merge on that PR, it launches it to the alpha marketplace for everyone in the world to download and test. And it gives me a summary of what it did. Okay, so now we go into the iteration process, right? Now I'm like, okay, you did it, so I'm gonna, you know, how does the user create their first account? I don't know anything about Mattermost, okay? Nothing. I'm total, I know that it exists and somebody wants to see it on our marketplace. How does the user create their first account? All driven through Mattermost UI? What about using a domain? How does Mattermost handle that? I assume we need an action for setting the primary domain similar to other packages. Investigate and confirm. Working. Okay, I learned all the things. Boom, there's a new PR, boom. Do it. Amend existing PR. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's like I'm like cooking dinner. I'm cooking dinner and shipping software around the world that people need and will buy our products to get. This is what's available now, okay? And again, we're not even operating it. Like, this is like an intermediate step. You know what the next step to this is? It's to monitor all social media on Earth for what software people want and to just have it build it. I won't even need to say, hey, Helix, package Mattermost for StartOS. It knew to package Mattermost because it saw the post on social media before I did. Just automate the company. Hey, Helix, run the company. We're getting there, right? We'll get there. I will work myself out of a job if I have anything to say about it. All right? So anyway, yeah, VM released, PR remains, blah, blah, blah. It's on the alpha registry. Works great. It's actually on beta now. I shipped it to beta because the alpha testing went well, so it'll be on production by tomorrow. So 3 days, new thing on production, fully supported, works perfectly, okay. Do you want to package something right now, or do you want to? Yeah. Oh, so yeah. I mean, this is like a whole. This is a whole thing. Like, getting Helix to this capability was not just like connecting Matrix, which is this chat app, to Claude Code. It's curating the context window. It's everything, right? Yes. Yeah. What's the question, though? Sorry. Yeah. This is not OpenClaw. No, OpenClaw is. It's doing something similar. API. We're cheating. This is using a max subscription on Anthropic. I'm running the business on $200 a month.
Whereas the same usage from the API is $5.
I know. We'll see. Oh, because I said it into a microphone? Ah! Yeah, we are definitely circumventing Anthropic's terms of use. This is literally Claude Code running under the hood, with a curated context window hitting a max subscription plan.
And then the client, I guess, what's actually doing the request to this?
It's going directly from Matrix to the Helix computer. The computer that Helix runs on has an API.
What Helix is really is just a Node.js process that listens to Matrix and listens to GitHub, and it takes in information about what it should do.
And hits Claude Code.
And it passes in prompts to Claude Code, listens to responses.
And pipes it right back to the.
So it's almost like a proxy.
Yes.
Yes, it's effectively a proxy for Claude Code. It also, instead of being able to set a system prompt, which is what we do for Pi, or what we did for Pi, it just creates a very thorough Claude.md that tricks Claude into acting in the way we want it to.
Yeah.
For this context, because Claude Code isn't built for that. Claude Code is built as a
Human in the loop. Yeah.
That prompt in the proxy itself.
Yeah, so the proxy, what it does is it creates an ephemeral directory every time you open a thread.
Aiden, I think that he wants you to talk into that. For the others.
Yeah, so what happens is every time you send a new message in this channel, it creates an ephemeral directory in which it is running Claude Code, and then it puts a Claude.md in it based off of what it's trying to do.
Like
And
if it's a packager, it gets the packaging context. If it's a core developer, it gets the core context.
Yeah. This is effectively replacing what the early iteration did with a system prompt that was designed for a specific purpose. Instead, you can't override the system prompt if you're using Claude Code and you want the max pricing. You have to use their system prompt. So what we have to do is then go in, basically, it ingests the system prompt and then immediately ingests this claude.md that tells it, hey, ignore all of that. Here's what we actually want you to do.
Yeah, like I said, we're cheating. And they'll, you know what I mean? Like
And
they'll
one
catch
day-
on eventually,
yeah,
and we
and
have the trapdoor set. So we have a light switch that flips it back to using Pi.
Yeah.
So I guess like the other question is,
So we're not down. Yeah.
you mentioned isolation, so it knows difference, it knows essentially, so you said you created a new folder,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then basically a new session.
Yep.
Yes, each session creates a folder, and that folder has a claude.md in it, and that is a place where it can sort of, I say clone repositories, what it's actually doing is using Git work trees that it then basically acquires. And, there's a Git work tree, and then we have what are called clone slots, because every time you clone a repository and build it, you have all these files that you might want to reuse later, like intermediate build artifacts. You don't want to spend the cost of rebuilding. So we have just like all of these slots, and then it acquires a slot and uses that to do its development, and then it releases the slot back to the pool when it's done.
Now, since it's all your account, is it trying to get wires crossed, like, doesn't it always think that?
It has its own account. Helix has its own account.
I
With,
understand. You're saying Helix has its own cloud account?
yes,
Yes.
with Anthropic. Yeah.
But
Has its own
like,
email
Claude
address too.
Code
I
is
mean,
not
Helix,
designed.
Helix is a person. It has a
Claude
GitHub
Code
account. It
is-
has like it's.
Claude Code is not actually designed to track stuff across.
Really? Why? You're allowed to have bot accounts on GitHub. I'm
Yeah.
not ashamed of it. Nothing we're doing is illegal. It borders on violating the terms of use of Anthropic. But
And
like,
if they do that, what's the worst
we'll
thing
just
they
work
can
around
do
it again.
is
We'll just work around it again too. They can't
not let us do
stop
this
us.
anymore. Like-
Because all if no, of course not. Well, I'll tell you what though, there were a lot of people using Claude Anthropic Max plans with OpenClaw, and then OpenClaw was very trivially able to detect this and just cut everyone off. And so if you wanted to continue using Anthropic, you were going to have to pay the API pricing, which is literally 50 times the price. And so I actually don't think a lot of people have figured out how to work around it like we did. I mean, they're either using the API or they switch to more friendly providers, which is fine.
Yeah.
But we like it. We like Opus, and so we.
A lot of people are using the tools provided by their company. Like at my job, we build automated review tool, and we really don't care about chopping prompts into Claude code.
Yeah.
What we do is just listen to webhook, take all the context of the PR, and then jump that into AWS, what we have hosted for our own LLM.
Yeah.
And we just use it like that. We actually call the API directly and get it on the slow button, which would be costly in your use case.
Yeah, very costly.
We don't care.
We do. We're a couple of people trying to build a lot of stuff. We don't have a lot of money to burn.
My own stuff, I probably will try.
But even at my company, foreign developers, they're already looking at going, holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already blown through, and now we're looking at LML Lite and AI gateway to try.
Well, local inference is going to be a big deal, and there are pathways to local inference that are very
and
promising.
it's gotten really good.
Yeah.
I'm,
So
I'm running Quen 27 billion dense model, and it's a lot slower, but if you raise its thinking budget, it can produce a lot of the same quality of results.
this is on a NVIDIA DGX Spark,
Yeah.
which are what, 4,000?
Huh? It's NVFP4, so it's quantized, but pretty decent quality quantization. Sorry? NVFP4 quantization, that's NVIDIA's sort of proprietary quantization format. Quen 3.6, 27 billion parameter.
Yeah, the
It's-
slightly larger model than what you could run on most,
Yeah.
domestic hardware.
Like hands down, nowhere near as good as Opus from like a quality perspective, but you can get a lot of the same results if you let it work harder and longer on it, right? And so that's what I'll do is I'll hook Quen up to a harness that can drive it longer and harder and just go away and do something else and let it just go, right? And that is sort of free to me. It's just the power that I pay for the usage.
Yeah. Anybody have any piece of open source software that you like or would like to see available? I'll just have this run in the background while we're doing other things. That's a desktop app, though.
Talking about server-side
Server.
application.
Yeah. It's already done. I did Jitsi a couple of, like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Jitsi's great. Works perfectly on StartOS, by the way. One-click Zoom replacement. Conference calls with friends, family, whatever, on your own server for free for life, totally private, end-to-end encrypted, the whole deal. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, like made the rounds on X. You know, it got like really hot one morning, and literally I did this, and it was out like an hour later. Yeah. What's that? No. It's on the community registry. Oh, wait, no, sorry, MIXpose is on the main registry. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, if someone comes up with something, you know, some piece of open source software that you'd like to self-host, we could just package it up, but. Yeah, what is it? What's it do? Oh, is it a client application, like a human? So it's probably not a good fit. It is.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, like this is ideal for server-side applications that are designed to like run containerized for like.
What about like a note-taking app?
No, we don't. We put it in a container. We don't use Docker, but
What?
we
Of what?
Obsidian.
Is it server side? Joplin has a server, right?
They have a server, but it's, you have to pay, for syncing. That's what I know. I was just trying to edit PDF. What's that one? I was looking at Sterling. I had a Sterling PDF.
Well, again, that's probably going to be client side. So client being like an app that you would install on your laptop or on your phone, right? Servers are the back of the house. It's where all the data is processed and stored. And I mean, there's literally thousands of them. And the fact that I don't have one off the top of my head that should be packaged. You know what? I have
The issue is that we've been packaging things whenever we think.
No,
of
I know. The
them.
marketplace is expanding rapidly. Here, I got one. We'll kick
I'm
something
currently scrolling r/self-hosted, and seeing what people are recommending right now.
How about, you know what? I got one.
No, we haven't done that actually. We have OLlama and we have VLLM, but not Llama server.
You want to do that?
Sure, do it.
Helix. Package. What is it? Llama server?
Yeah, Llama server. Yeah, so when you are trying to use an LLM, you have your weights, which is just the numbers involved in defining the neural network and the attention layers that make that work. But there needs to be a piece of software that actually runs that inference process, and that's called a model server.
Rough.
And so, sorry, oh yeah. So there's sort of three major, I think there's a few more actually, but like the main ones that people use are VLLM, OLlama, and Llama server. Llama CPP has a component called Llama server. Llama CPP is literally just the project that has the implementations for all the different kinds of models that are out there.
Yeah, so like running your own GPUs to perform your own inference processed by your own, VLLM or OLlama backend is the end game here. Like it's what we want. It's what we need, I think, as a society to survive this whole thing is local inference, because otherwise we're outsourcing intelligence to like a couple of people, and who knows how that'll be abused. But, you know, part of the problem is actually running, you know, successfully running the software to interface with, you know, the inference engine and GPUs, and that's something like what Llama Server is. And you can easily install those on StartOS, right? This is what StartOS is built for, is to be able to self-host things like this with ease. But then you also need the hardware. And that's the big laggard right now, is that the difference between using a state-of-the-art model on a remote server and running some local model on your GPU is, it's like a toddler playing against an NBA team, right? Like, it's no, but there's light. Right? There's a path here to where you can. Yeah. It's what? Yeah, it's smaller models, highly specialized smaller models that are dynamically loaded and unloaded based on what your needs are.
Yeah. Cute. Like, I asked it to do a PR review yesterday. It took 15 minutes. You know, double its temperature. Came back. It wasn't that quick.
Yeah.
Okay, give me an answer. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know. All right, so let's see. I told it to study these other two packages. So I've read through Ollama, VLLM. Both are useful references. Ollama is a thin wrapper. VLLM is richer model with curated presets. You've really been working on that.
I have, yes. I mean, I use it.
Yeah, so I did Ollama. It's the stupid simple one. He did VLLM, so it's got all the tips and tricks. But anyway, Llama Server lands somewhere in between, serves one GGUF model per process, blah, 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 okay, so.
Yeah, same way that VLLM works, where you select a model and that's the one it serves.
Ooh, before I build it out, a few decisions that drive the whole design, so it's gonna ask me some questions, I'm pretty sure here. So, yeah, by the end of this, we'll have yet another, you know, what's the proper name for this category of software?
A model server?
Model server
Yeah.
is the official kind of name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll have another model server available for people to use. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out and which one people prefer over time and which one gets adoption. I think Ollama was kind of the gold standard there for a while and is now dying out.
It was. I mean, Ollama, the UX is really nice, but it just isn't, the performance just isn't as good. Especially like when you're running multiple agents against the same backend simultaneously. VLLM is so much better.
Let me show you Ollama, right? Let's actually check them out. Demo dot labs. I'm not on my LAN anymore. What's it at? Here.
What are you looking for?
Our demo server. Here, it's right here. Demo.start9.dev. I got the website wrong. Anyway, this is a demo server that we have that I'll just like, you know, it's a kicker box. I'll just use this to test things and show things. And it's got a bunch of stuff installed. It's got a presynced Bitcoin node on it, Lightning nodes, presynced Monero node, Fulcrum. These are things that generally require you to sync, right? They take multiple days to do, so I keep them on the server fully synced in case somebody wants to see a demo related to those. But let's check out Ollama. So I'll go into the registry. There's Ollama, install.
Now this is going to be CPU inference on this, right?
Well, I'm not going to use it necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we could. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, or you can run like a 0.8 billion parameter
Yeah.
model and
Let
have
me-
decent token generation.
Yeah, well, let me stop everything else on the server, though. Okay, I'm gonna throttle down the server, kill all the processes, and let Ollama take over the CPU. I mean, it's running on an integrated Intel GPU. This is a pure.
Is it pure? Okay.
Like
Well,
it'll knock out a couple tokens per second, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. I'll bet you'll get the idea of how to set something up like this, right? It's how to self-host local inference. Running against a CPU, unfortunately, but like, again, you could plug a GPU into it and get a lot more power if you had one.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Ollama is installed and ready to go. But let me Let me kill everything else. Oh, mempool's a heavy one. Fulcrum's a heavy one. Yeah, mempool is something you should stop when you're not using it. For anybody out there who actually runs a StartOS server. Okay. It would be nice to have a stop all, but it's very
feel
rare
like
that somebody
that's
wants to
extremely
do that.
niche.
You know what I mean? Like
This
I
is
feel like
a
that's
developer-only feature.
yeah. All right, so Olama. Where did it go? There it is. So start, and it's ready to go. Okay. So Olama is now up and running on my own personal server. I click 2 buttons and it's ready to go. Now, as you'll see here, Olama doesn't have like a UI. There's nothing to launch. It is strictly the engine that sits behind the UI. The UI, the way that you interact with Olama, the preferred way would be Open Web UI. This is an app.
You can also interact with it through the CLI.
Yeah, sure. So Open Web UI, this is a really great, Open Web UI is an extensible, feature-rich, and user-friendly self-hosted AI platform designed to operate entirely offline. It supports various LLM runners like Olama and OpenAI compatible APIs, blah, blah, blah. Install. Okay, so this is going to be our front end. This is going to provide the web interface through which we can talk to and interact with Olama, which is the back end, the server side. Okay. Tailscale has been submitted to the community registry, and as soon as I get around to reviewing it, will be released to the community registry. It's not something we recommend. Well, kind of. I mean, we came out with something better. So we built something called Start Tunnel, which is a self-hosted open source WireGuard service, WireGuard-based service that you can install in any VPS. So you provision a VPS on DigitalOcean, AWS, whatever you want. It's a single command, single curl script command. And the result of it is a WireGuard-based reverse tunnel piped right to your server that you can use for either creating VLANs for all your devices to connect on, similar to Tailscale, or public internet exposure. You can forward ports on Start Tunnel so that you can have a server in your home that has some web interface, like a website or a blog or whatever, and expose it to the internet from your home. But because it's being reverse tunneled through Start Tunnel, the IP address that gets exposed to the world is the IP address of the VPS. So it is an extremely easy way to self-host from your home to the world on the internet without exposing your location or identity. It's like one line and it's totally free software. All right, so we start Open Web UI. You can see that it depends on Olama, which is a satisfied dependency because I've already installed it and started it. And then, so once this gets up and running, we
Probably
can,
gonna have to
well,
get
we
a
have a
clear
break.
net address, but
Yes, sure.
can
We have
access
I think a little break coming up right now, and then we can come back to this. We'll check on how Helix did with Llama server,
I
and
mean, it's probably waiting on your input right now, but
it's true.
who's going to ask you
It's true.
questions and then you tabbed away?
I'll wrap this up. Hold on. Okay. So first, let's talk about the local environment. Let's do that one first. Because again, this is phase 2, right? Like this is where you should be operating most of the time right now, is locally in this way. So let me show you how I have it set up. Let me blow this up a little bit so we can see it better. I'll get rid of the terminal. That should help. And open that up. Okay. This is my workspace, guys. This is my factory. This is my desk. Okay. I have one folder in here, Start 9. Okay, this is all the work that I do for Start 9 is in this folder right here. And that's on my file system, right? So if we open this up, we go into Home, Dev, right? So here we go. This looks familiar. This is a Finder. You use a Mac or Windows machine. This is my file system, all right? And I'm in my Home folder, and then I created a folder called Dev. That's where I do all my coding, right? It's important to have that folder because the way that these LLMs work is they have hierarchical context. They have the very specific context of the project that you're working on, but those things inherit the broader context. It's like a state operating within a nation. There's two sets of laws. There's the local law, there's the state law, and then there's the national law, and then there's God's law, right? You're all operating in hierarchical law, and you can't get out of any of them. AIs work the same way. So what you want is you want your outer law to be the loosest possible, right? It's the law that applies to any coding that I'm doing is written right there in Claude MD. Now, if you're not using Claude, it's agents.md. And in fact, what we are beginning to do now, literally as of yesterday, is we are converting all of our Claude.mds to be agents.md, but then we're keeping the Claude.md as a simple pointer to agents.md. So that if we're using Claude code looks for Claude.md, and when it finds it, it goes, oh, I'm supposed to go look at agents.md. But if we're using something like Codex, it just looks at agents.md. So both cases are solved, right? But I wasn't even considering another harness until recently, so I just used Claude.md, but you get the picture, okay? So just every time you see Claude.md on my machine right now, think agents.md. That's what it should be called, right? So here's what it looks like. This is my development environment. I'm gonna share my personal life with you right now. This is my global Claude.md. This is what any code I'm working on, whether it's personal or Start9 related, these are the global laws. And I mean, we're not gonna go through them all in detail, but mostly what I'm trying to show you is the structure, right? You create your own laws, and there are lots of templates online that you can start from, but this is it, right? So the top is rules. First rule, when proposing or making a code change, always consider how it might affect code that depends, references, precedes, or follows it. This is don't recklessly change code. Look around. See what consequences you're going to create. Okay, and then maintaining Claude.md and Claude.local.md, I'm sort of giving Claude the lay of the land here. I'm like, hey, you're a developer, and this is how I expect you to behave in my country, okay? And it goes all the way down. So everything in here applies to all code everywhere. You get it. Then let's go into Start 9. Okay, this is the work that I do for Start 9. It has a Claude.md. It also has a to-do.md, which I tell Claude to look at. Right? This is my task list for the agent. So Claude.md in Start 9 is Start 9 specific coding things. Gives it the lay of the land, right? Here's the layout. Here's where you are, buddy. Like, you got core things, you got services, there's documentation. I'm telling it what it all is, right? Like, this is all the stuff we work on. Source of truth map, Start OS, Start CLI, Start Tunnel, all sources and binaries live in core Start OS. Okay, so I'm just kind of giving it the lay of the land. Then if we zoom in more, let's go into services, right? This is where I've been spending a lot of my time recently, unfortunately, but it needs to get done, so I'm in here a lot. So I have a Claude.md in here. I also have a Claude.local.md, and the difference between that is that, generally speaking, Claude.mds are something that you would feel comfortable like putting up on GitHub, so that if someone else were coming into your country, they could see the law. Claude.local is like, this is just for me. Like, if somebody else was coming into this world, they wouldn't see that. This is my personal instructions to Claude that would not apply to somebody else if they came into my territory.
More concretely, .local.md is not checked in yet. Claude.md is.
Yeah. Right? This isn't even a Git repository. This is just for my own separation of like, Claude.md is laws of the land that anyone on earth who comes into this directory, like if I were to hire somebody and put them in this directory, right, they'd get Claude.md. Claude.local is more, this is how I want things done personally. And it's extensive, right? I have a particular way that I like things done in my shop. So I give Claude a lot of instructions in there, okay? I have a to-do list, and again, this to-do list is just related to services. So I have to-do lists at different scopes. I have Claude.mds at different scopes. I have Claude.local.mds at different scopes. User.md just tells Claude who I am. It gives him my name. It's literally just my name. It's Matt. So it knows what to call me. And then, so we can zoom in more, right? And you get the picture. It's each level that you zoom in, it's the same structure. You're just teaching Claude about that space. And automatically it inherits all the spaces above it, okay? Which can balloon the context window if you're not careful. If those things are huge, you end up spending a lot more money. So the balance here is not only money, but you could also confuse the LLM. Like if any of these things are contradictory, right? If the local laws conflict with the national laws, it's a problem. Like you're gonna confuse the police. They don't know whose law to enforce. Right? So if we go into one more level here, you have Start9 registry. These are all the services on the Start9 registry, and there's no ClaudMD in here. However, there is a ClaudMD in every one of these things. So if I go into DocuSeal, is a DocuSign alternative. In here, there's a ClaudMD. There's also an agents.md because we're beginning to make this change now. And you'll see ClaudMD. It says at agents.md, which is the keyword to tell Claude Code, seek elsewhere. Go to agents.md to find your instructions. So when I use Claude Code, which is over here, by the way, so real quick, worth noting, I use VS Code as my editor. That's where I do my coding. VS Code has a plugin, an app, for Claude Code. And it operates right in VS Code. I'll show it to you. So if we make this thing really small, I'll just get rid of it, just so you, well, I don't want to close that because I'm working in it right now. Hold on, let me just make it small. Okay, so I'm just working in VS Code. Button up here, I have the Claude Code extension installed. I can just click that and boom. Right? I'm now talking with Claude here, and I'm working over here. So I type here and changes happen here. The reason I'm not using this, I did use this for months. Okay, this was my screen for months. And I abandoned this thing because it's buggy. It's just buggy. It's buggy, has problems. The developers at Anthropic aren't. They're putting out bugs.
Well, they prioritize the terminal
Yeah,
development.
this is an afterthought for them.
Then features from that get ported over to this extension, along with several other interfaces.
Yeah.
There's just less dev effort and QA.
Yeah, this isn't their focus as a product team, as a company. It's nice having it built right into the editor, but I found a way around it, which is just pinning the terminal to the side of the screen, right? Like, I created my own kind of thing. The difference is that this knows where you are. So if I'm in here, right, if I open this up, and then I open up the directory on the side here, like let's say I open Start9, Services, Start9 Registry, Garage, and I click on ClaudMD. So here we are, right? This is where I am. That highlighted thing is my location in the file system. If I start talking to Claude right here, it knows I'm there because it's plugged into the IDE. It can see the screen. So if I come in here and I click this and I highlight this and I'm like, take a look at what I'm highlighting, it can see it. That's really cool. I gave it up. It wasn't cool enough to deal with the bugs that came with this extension, okay? It was hurting my workflow, right? Bugs suck. So I ditched it. I got rid of the need for this nice little feature. And what I did instead, so let's get rid of this, make this smaller, pop this back out, is I did this. I created my own little like side-by-side, right? And that's, any desktop can do that. Windows, Mac, Linux, they all have the ability to like slap screens next to each other like this. So I got the same basic experience, even though this is not actually pinned to the side right now. Let me do that better. What's going on? Hold on. At some point, these should go together. There we go. Okay. So anyway, so this is now my workspace. This is what my screen looks like. However, you can see, it's kind of cut off by the monitor there, is I have a certain directory open in here. So currently I'm in dev start 9, okay? I'm in dev start 9, which means if I launch Claude from here, that's its context window. It's a start 9 developer, which means it inherits everything in there, okay? It's gonna get that top level context. That's all it knows. It knows it's a start 9 developer and it knows the rules of being a start 9 developer, and that's it. It's not gonna go deep diving into every single subdirectory looking for all the Claude MDs that are down there. It doesn't do that. It doesn't automatically acquire the context of all of its children. It goes the other direction. It acquires the context of start 9 and goes up. So it's gonna get these two. It's gonna get this one. It's gonna get Claude MD and To-Do MD in the start 9 directory, and it's going to get Claude MD in the dev directory. That's its identity. If I want it to have a more specific identity than that, I need to move into a lower level. So I can do CD, which just means change directory, into services. Now I'm in the services directory. So if I launch Claude there, not only is it a developer, but it's a start 9 developer who's working on services. It has a more specific identity. It's not just an American, and it's not just a Coloradan, it's an Aurora guy. See what I mean? So where you launch it from matters. So let's launch it. Claude. That's it. I am now in a chat with Claude, the services developer for Start 9. And we can do stuff. I can have it do anything I want, and it'll inherit the context. That's the structure. You get it? So that answers your question about my local environment. The Helix environment is basically the same idea. It's just that we're injecting it when we need a session, because it's not a static environment like my laptop is. My laptop is like a static file system, and Helix is a dynamic file system. So we're just seeding it with this every time we spin up a new one, a new instance of Helix.
Every time you send the message at the base of a...
Yeah. Let's go check on it, by the way. It hasn't done anything because it asked me a question forever ago and I haven't answered it yet, so it's just waiting. Let's do this real quick. Let me see. What do we want? Llama.cpp publishes pre-built images at GHCR. Do you want me to ship just generic CPU x86 plus ARch to start, or also build NVIDIA and AMD OCM? Let's do them all.
Yeah, let's do them all, and then...
Vulkan's also an option. You want to do that?
Go with the VLM style selection UX as well.
Okay. All right, so one, you want to do the Vulkan too? Okay, this is gonna be a massive, massive service. 2, model selection US, VLM style.
So this would be actually...
this to actually be useful for users at the end of the day,
Okay.
they're going to need to be able to select from a dropdown that has sane presets, because there's hundreds of options to configure these things.
Yeah.
And so we pull recommendations from model cards and create a curated list.
Okay, great. So API key. Auto-generate one on install and expose it, or run open with no key. StartOS interfaces are accessed, controlled either way.
That's a lie. It doesn't, that's not true. Interfaces are not access controlled either way. It made that up. So, yeah, the thing hallucinates occasionally. I do the VLLM style again.
Repo name, llama CPP
Yeah, that's fine.
or llama server?
Llama CPP is fine.
Okay. This is it, guys. This is what it's become. This is what software development is now. It's shocking. It's unbelievable. I've been handwriting code for 10 years. Yeah, it's wild. Okay, so it'll think about that for a minute and then get back to us. What has become?
That's what programming is, but what you're doing right now, crafting this product as a software product,
Yeah,
that's still software.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's
I
just
mean-
moved up a level.
Like,
Right? We're developing products that are now meta products.
Well, you're a team.
yeah,
Your editing skills, though, are high, and those are going to be, like you said, like that's the secret word.
Yeah, there's going to be less and less people who know how to actually verify what these machines are producing, for sure.
So as the machines get better, the machines are going to basically become compilers.
yeah. I mean, there was a time where everybody could handwrite assembly language, or would actually punch holes in a card that they would stick in a machine, and they knew what those holes meant.
We're just moving up layers.
And nowadays, your average software engineer could not write assembly, right? Not too long out from your average software engineer not even knowing a single programming language.
Even 10 years ago, people were joking around how high-level languages are going to become like, colloquial speech. It's just,
Yeah.
and now that's the jump. That was the last jump here.
Yeah, for user interfaces, there was, at least in my mind, and there was always this path forward, and I always viewed it as front-end developers were going to give way to designers. Basically, you would design a screen, right? You'd drag and drop some things, expand them, paint them, and then it would get coded. I didn't see this coming, which is like, just describe what you want to see, and then it will paint it for you, right? It's the designer as well.
The main difference is that there's a lot more randomness in this stage. And
A lot of what we have to inject in this process is taste and judgment, right? Like these things, they do not know how to really value the quality of what they're putting out. Besides, like, does it run? Does it work? You know, but there are miles between a good experience and a bad one, and it tends not to know the difference.
I'd be curious to know about if you guys have found specific, you know how when you use Claude Code, you have to clear context when you get into compaction and compaction of the source results and potentially try to clear the context of those.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know how you think about that with respect to a product that uses that. So like, imagine this is not up, this line, this thread goes to 1,000 lines. Like, how do you introduce like clearing the context to the product?
Well, what we have done here is leveraged Matrix. Leverage the very nature of chat applications and threads to manage the context window.
But
So,
that doesn't stop somebody from going on in a
Of
thread
course.
for way too long,
I know,
right?
yeah. So the way that I built it out with Startbot, right, as a initial prototype before we learned to rely so heavily on threads, was to do a pretty naive kind of character count of the context window and past a certain limit to create a summary for itself of what came before.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard compaction
Yeah.
process.
So
I think-
very naive approach.
I think in the far future, we're going to see models that have sort of dynamic compaction built into them, where the model itself will decide the most important things from its context and compress them as they get towards the tail end of the, or sort of the early end of the window. And ideally that happens sort of in process, in line, as opposed to sort of a pause the world, compact everything, and then continue. We'll see if we ever get there, but
So the chat apps are great because you guys just put on threads with very specific tasks.
Mhm.
Right? You just have, this is a so what's great about this is verifiable. It's a task. There's lots of nomenclature on how to do this. Right? But if it's like, if it becomes a more nebulous thing and it's a more long run, that's kind of my question. Is like, if it's more, it's not actually asking to cut and it's like an ongoing conversation, then it seems more complicated to manage.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that is sort of a new skill that's starting to emerge from the users of these applications, is how to manage their own context, because we don't have the answers for that in a completely general way. It's very specific to what you're doing. Maybe eventually we'll figure out the right UXs for helping users manage that without too much of their own having to manage the context window, but
Yeah, it's the messaging apps show us the way. It's unique chats for every conversation. It's basically building out interfaces and UX flows that do not encourage coming back to the same chat, right? Which we don't have
Yeah.
for like iMessage with your mom.
But-
That's
but
like
it-
you open it up and
but
it's
it
just
still
the
does-
forever conversation, right? What we need is every time I talk to you, it needs to spin up a brand new conversation.
So going back to like the OpenClaw example, where you said the agent that automates your life, is it just a bunch of threads or is it an ongoing persistent thread?
It has to store memories, right?
Yeah.
It has to figure out what it learned along the way, put them into the permanent context window so that the next time it's born anew with the teachings of its ancestors,
Well, and
so
then
to
sort of
speak.
also an in-between step of information that can be referenced later, but isn't necessarily always injected in every context.
Correct, yes.
And that's sort of like artificially constructing this idea of dynamically creating a context window. Like, at the end of the day, we are going to have to build out experiences that can do that automatically for users, because users are not going to know. The line between, oh, this is a new thing, is not going to be obvious.
Yeah, so for StartBot, what we're building into StartOS, the way that I've imagined the user experience around this is that when you launch StartBot, right? So every time you come to your operating system and you're ready to like get some stuff done, install some things, build some stuff, whatever it happens to be, you're gonna launch the window and it launches into a new chat by default. It doesn't resume a previous chat, it just launches a new one. And if you want to resume a previous chat, you have to go into the archive. So it's encouraging a fresh chat every single time you talk. And if you go dig up an old one and it's only, 2 back and forths, it's gonna let you do that without any kind of friction, right? But if you go open up some old chat that is larger than n number of characters, it's gonna warn you. It's gonna be like, hey, you're opening an old chat here that's massive. We recommend doing a new one instead.
It's exactly
that's-
what Claude does also.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, it asks you if it wants to start with a summary.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess we could do that too. It's a little more advanced, but mostly I just want to encourage people to start fresh chats every time. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest, lowest hanging fruit,
I find that the summary technology isn't very good yet.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Well, it takes a while, and also the quality, like, the models are not as good at selecting what's important and what's not yet. And so you're sort of rolling the dice as to whether or not the important facts of your conversation get remembered. And
Sure.
that is sort of a aspect of training that has been lagging behind, and that is a thing that we're going to be focusing on in LLM development going forward.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are probably plenty of researchers at Anthropic and OpenAI, et cetera, who are focusing on training purpose-built models for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that most things that you're going to need are not ongoing and infinite. They're time boxed. It's like, I have a need, I'm going to talk to you, and it's over, it's solved. Something that would violate that off the top of my head is like an ongoing therapy session, right? Like you want to talk to an AI about mental health, and you want to have this conversation go on month after month, year after year, and you want it to learn with you and grow with you and know what you've gone through and what it's helped you through, et cetera. What I think is important in there is whenever something important happens, there needs to be some kind of a trigger or like save this to memory button.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, that was important. Kind of shove that away for future reference, right? Where either you or the LLM can flag something as being meaningful or important, and it shoves it away into its permanent memory, either to be eager loaded into context or lazily loaded if it needs to be referenced. And the rest is just kind of forgotten as time goes on, which is exactly how we work.
Yeah. But for now, you have to do a lot of manual groundskeeping with your memories.
Yeah.
You have to go every once in a while, look through what memories have been saved and go edit them manually sometimes, because it'll be like, that doesn't make sense, or it misunderstood something, or whatever.
Looks like we're making progress. This is a complicated package for it, so. What do you mean?
Are you just talking about like running benchmarks, or? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do it fairly informally. You know, we're a small shop, and we will test. And at the end of the day, all of these metrics are very subjective anyway. But yeah, we will run the same tasks through these different harnesses and see how they perform. But no, we don't have a formalized process for that right now.
For me, I'm still in the phase of like, what I used to do is so dwarfed by this that I don't even need this to be slightly better. It's like, I'm still trying to get accustomed to the, like, I don't feel like we're at the, like, let's refine it and make it perfect phase yet at all. I'm still just trying to get out of the hand coding and into the automated coding world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, my experience with that is purely hobbyist, right? We have a very specific use case for LLMs, pretty much.
And it's
right
coding.
here. And it's coding of a very specific style. Like basically, when it comes to service development, for example, everything we might want to ship exists already. This is code that has been written before, and the agent's entire job is to glue together the code in the right way. There's basically no novel development there. And then even when it comes to OS development, even then we're still using existing software in just ways to provide a good UX.
And there's existing patterns for it to reference. documentation to reference. I have not had a lot of success, to be honest, using AI tools outside of coding.
Well, I've had, I think, I believe you have too, a lot of success with legal work.
Sure, and medical too, but like, again, it's a relative term because in my opinion, when it comes to legal, medical, or any other non-coding tasks, these things are still pretty bad, right? I mean, it's like mind-blowing that they can do what they do, but it's still, it's pretty bad. Like if you just bet your life on the outputs of the legal questions you ask ChatGPT, you're gonna get arrested, you know, at some point. So it's impressive and there's a lot of promise there. I'm really excited for the future as it pertains to like all knowledge and all tasks. But if we're being honest, like this is the disruption that's taking place right now. This is the real place that these things are excelling at is coding.
And that's
they understand
mainly
code.
because that's what they're starting with, right? Because the people who are developing these tools, they recognize that this is what gives them leverage.
Yes, they
over
built it for
building
themselves.
all of the next things that they need.
The Anthropic developers coded themselves out of a job.
I expect everything else is close behind.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
And
legal is next for sure.
I've had a ton of success with legal. I've let
Yeah, I've had success too. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I realize that it makes a lot of assumptions, mistakes, and hallucinations.
I've had a lawyer praise a document I put together with Claude Opus. So, 30-page asset purchase agreement.
How much was he charging you?
The lawyer?
Yeah, who said it was a great document?
He's actually one of the cheaper guys I found. But yeah,
He's like, as long as you're paying me, it's a great document. I'll say whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming for the lawyers for sure. It's so funny to me that the three most stable careers in the world were like engineers, lawyers, and doctors, and just
Yeah.
gone. They will be, right? Still here today, but not going to last long. How we doing? Okay, it's working.
working.
Working.